What do you get when you combine two great horror masters together? You get an amazing, fun, different, bizarre, kick-ass film like Creepshow as the end result. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So let's get it. Hi, I'm Lenny, and in this video, we're talking about the film Creepshow, which came out in 1982. It's rated R, and it is an hour and 20 minutes. 2 hours. This film is a collaboration between George A. Romero, who is the creator of the zombie genre, films like Return of the Living Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, Walk of the Dead don't eat sandwiches, they eat fish. Not a real title, but should copyright that, and that might work out one day. But George A. Romero, definitely a master and creator of horror. Much respect to him. And the brilliant Stephen King collaborated for a film that is called Creepshow in 1982. This is directed by George Romero, and the original screenplay was written by Stephen King. This is a very interesting film. It's a different film. You have some short stories within it, bookend by a intro and an outro. Creepshow opens up, we're looking at a house, beautiful house at night. There's a jack-o'-lantern in the window. It's around Halloween time, and we see Tom Atkins, 80s actor Tom Atkins, the man with the magical mustache, sans the mustache. He does not have the mustache in it, but he's playing young Billy's father. And Billy's father is yelling at him because he has found a issue of Creepshow. He's being a dick. He's being a dick. He's overreacting. There's no reason to flip out, but he's calling this comic book trash. It's garbage. He doesn't want his son reading it. And young Billy disagrees with his dad. He says it's no different than the smut magazines that he has hiding in his drawer, which results in Billy getting a slap across the face. But this film takes place in the 80s. And back then, you could beat your kids without being arrested. So as Billy is laying in his room, pissed and upset, he's wishing that his dad would rot in hell. And then we look out of his window and we see this beautiful skeleton figure that welcomes us on a journey with him. And thus begins the magical film, which is called Creepshow. Something cool about the visual style of Creepshow is, since it's based off of this comic book or this graphic novel, whichever you prefer to call it, the movie is done in a very colorful format where you'll see comic book panels or different colors or splash pages. It's done in a way that resembles a comic book or a graphic novel. It's amazingly done. The first vignette or small film is called Father's Day. Father's Day is the story of a very wealthy family that has inherited money from the death of a very horrible old man. He was a rich, very wealthy old man who was horrible within his life and treated his oldest daughter horribly. She stayed and took care of him in their very massive house and very luscious estate. And he was very selfish. He wanted her as a handmaiden to wait on him hand and foot, night and day, to take care of anything that he needed. Even though there was maids within his house, he didn't want his daughter going anywhere. And she was older. She's in her 60s, she's in her 70s. Now she falls in love with an older gentleman, someone who's her age, but an older gentleman, older in life. She has a chance of marrying and moving out and having a life of her own. This suitor for her is killed on a hunting trip. So she does not leave her father, she stays with him. It's believed that the father purposely had him killed on this hunting trip so that she would stay and take care of him. Every Father's Day, he demands that a cake is made for him, and he doesn't go about it in the nicest way. He has this cane and he sits in a wheelchair. He doesn't ask about the cake in the nicest way. He's like, "Where's my cake, you bitch? I want my cake. You're all a bunch of freeloaders. All you want is my money. You all want me to die. Where's my cake? Finally, the oldest daughter, who I believe her name is Batilda, can't take it anymore and smashes his head in with this very heavy granite ashtray on Father's Day and make it look like an accident. So a couple years down the line, it's Father's Day again. Batilda is going to be going to the family estate where there is a family plot on the grounds. Batilda goes to her father's grave, but she's talking about what a bastard that he was in life and how he never wanted her happy and how all he cared about was getting his cake, and she's reenacting in it, and it's hilarious because she's like, where's my cake? I want my cake. And he did. He sounded like 100-year-old bratty kid. The father is still hankering for that cake because he comes busting out of the grave, skeleton, rotten to the bone, with a very gravelly, groggly voice demanding where's his cake. It's Father's Day. I want my cake, you bitch. He's still not asking very nicely. And he chokes the crap out of Batilda, kills her, and starts marching into the family estate. Long story short, everyone in the household is basically getting killed. All he wanted was his cake, and he's finally got his cake. Homeboy obviously had a sweet tooth, couldn't keep him down in the depths of hell for long. The second vignette, or short story, is called The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill. And Stephen King is in this one himself. He plays Jordy Verrill, who is a kind of like a country bumpkin, if you get the term, in the way of his speech and his mannerisms. He's almost like if Goofy was a farmer, that is what Stephen King is portraying in this vignette. This one always cracked me up when I was younger. It's a little more lighthearted, especially coming off of Father's Day, which used to scare the crap out of me as a kid. But it takes place at night, where Jordy is outside. He sees a falling star or a meteor come from the sky and crash land on his property. So Jordy goes to pick the meteor up, which just came from the skies, which is basically like picking something out of the oven with your bare hands right away. He burns a couple of his fingers because it's so hot, which right away his instant response is to put these fingers in his mouth to cool it down. So he decides that since it's too hot to pick up, he's gonna fetch a pail of water, dump it on the meteor, and that will cool it down. Which it does, but it causes the meteor to split in half and crack open like an egg. Within this meteor, he picks it up. There's some bluish, greenish fluid in it, which he pours out. One of my favorite lines within this small vignette himself is when Stephen King sees the liquid. He's like, it's meteor shit. I don't know. I'm amused easily, I guess. Since he put his fingers in his mouth and his mouth is wet, he's growing fungus on his tongue. And it's starting to creep out from where the meteor landed and take all over the land and the house itself. Our third story within Creepshow is Something to Tide You Over, which is a play on words here. And this one features a very young Ted Danson. It also features Leslie Nielsen, who was famous for the Naked Gun films and for being in Airplane. Leslie Nielsen is not the best husband in the world, and he's just kind of a rich asshole who likes to keep what's his, regardless if he wants it or not. If it's his, he doesn't want to get rid of it. She is going to be leaving him and divorcing him, and that their marriage is over. Before this can happen, though, Richard has buried each of them up to their neck in sand on his own private property of his beach estate. Has two monitors up, and he watches as both of them slowly drown. As the tide goes in, they have to hold their breath. As the tide recedes and comes back in, they're constantly getting bombarded by water, and they have to hold their breath longer each time, and eventually they are going to drown. It's a slow, painful, and sadistic death planned by this rich asshole. The fourth story within Creepshow is called The Crate. So The Crate features Adrienne Barbeau, who was big in the 80s for being in John Carpenter films. She was also married to John Carpenter. You know John Carpenter from Halloween and from The Thing. But he also directed his then wife, Adrienne Barbeau, in the films Escape from New York and The Fog. And the final story within Creepshow is called They Are Creeping Up on You. This is the fifth vignette, or fifth little short story within this movie. This one always creeped me out as a kid and still creeps me out now because it's about bugs, especially roaches. Our outro now picks up where the intro left off, where it is the next day. We see garbage men outside of young Billy's house, and they find the Creepshow issue, graphic novel, comic book that Billy's father, Tom Atkins, has thrown away in the trash. And as they're panning through it, they see that there is an ad for a voodoo doll. But unfortunately, it's already been clipped out. Somebody has already sent away for the voodoo doll. We cut into the interior of the house where Billy's mother and father are downstairs in the kitchen, and they're still discussing the previous acts of last night, where Billy's mother thinks that Billy's father went a little bit too far. Anyway, he doesn't look like he is feeling good, and he says he didn't get a lot of sleep and that he's not feeling well. He has a little bit of pain. And as he's downstairs in the kitchen, he starts reacting out in pain. We cut to young Billy's bedroom, and there is young Billy with the voodoo doll and pins and needles, and he's stabbing the voodoo doll, which represents his father. And he's like, "Time for another shot, Doc?" And that is how Creepshow wraps up. So if you've never seen Creepshow, try to find it. It's worth watching. It's cheesy compared to today's standards. In 2019, it's going to be cheesy, but I still think that it's worth checking out. I still think it's well done, and it was ahead of its time. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see other videos like this, all you have to do is hit the YouTube logo down in the corner, and you'll get notified anytime that I upload a new video. As always, I want to say thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to speak about these things that I'm passionate about, that I have a love for. Thank you for letting me talk your ears off. Thank you so much. Please be safe, be careful, and I'll talk to you soon.